Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Cynthia Ng. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim reiterates that he does not have the power to interfere in the court case of Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi. He made the statement as the government continues to face criticism over the High Court's decision to grant the Deputy Prime Minister a discharge not amounting to an acquittal on all 47 charges in his Yayasan Akal Budi corruption case.
Tentunya saya sebagai Perdana Menteri tahu kesan dan tuduhan yang dilemparkan. Saya terpaksa tanya panjang kepada Pegawai Negara, mengapa keputusan begitu? Mengapa sekarang? Jadi kalau ikut tanya saya, kalau saya ada kuasa, saya nak tangguh. Sebab apa? Saya nak lepaskan dulu semua pilihan raya ini. Kemudian Pegawai Negara jalankanlah. Tetapi Pegawai Negara tidak setuju. Pegawai Negara kata tarikh awal mahkamah ialah 4 hari bulan. Dan 5 hari bulan adalah hari akhir beliau. Jadi beliau menjalankan tanggungjawab dia. Dia tak mau lepaskan tanggungjawab yang dia uruskan kepada yang lain. Jadi saya tidak boleh menghalang dan saya juga baca banyak kenyataan-kenyataan. Sebahagiannya benar, sebahagian iaitu melahirkan rasa kesangsian, minta penjelasan lanjut. Saya juga minta penjelasan lanjut daripada Pegawai Negara tentunya. Dan lepas itu saya tak salahkan mana-mana rakyat yang inginkan penjelasan lanjut.
Ahead of the by-elections for Pulai parliamentary seat and Simpang Jeram state seat, will the Pakatan Harapan Barisan Nasional tag team help secure a win for both seats? We discussed the transferability of votes with Nur Azmi Matnoh, CEO of the Nusantara Academy for Strategic Research.
When we look back at the 6 PRN, they are mixed actually. If you look at the Kedah, of course, you know the result. Whereas basically a lot of the BN, Barisan voters has actually moved more than close to 50% to PN, and therefore leaving to the vote transferability from BN to PH only around 30 to 35% for Kedah. However, we do see an interesting, very high response with regard to vote transferability between BN to PH in the 2 states of Kelantan and Terengganu, as high as 80%. And in fact, if you notice, one of the DON which was contested by Amanah in DON Kota Lama, we noticed that actually the winning factor was because of the high vote transferability between BN to PH in that particular states. And again, when we look at on the ground, what actually happened is that there's a lot of, I would say, support coming from both BN, which is UMNO, and also MCA with regard to the Kota Lama. And we are seeing the same, I would say, effect with regard to Parlimen Pulai and Simpang Jeram, whereby the BN machineries are working hard towards first actually securing at least 33% of vote transferability from BN to PH, basically looking at their what they call in the BN terms as undi putih.
Nur Azmi warns, however, that the efforts of the Perikatan Nasional machinery to secure a victory in Simpang Jeram should not be underestimated.
You look at how serious the PN, the Perikatan machineries are working, especially in DON Simpang Jeram. And if you notice, they even brought in the heavy guns like Tun Mahathir, which is not even part of Perikatan, even with Tun Mahathir and Muhyiddin as the president of Perikatan, to be part of the DON Simpang Jeram campaign program recently. So they are very serious in basically working towards gaining the votes, especially for those who voted for BN in the last election for DON Simpang Jeram. And again, if you notice that the DON Simpang Jeram, the candidates is actually from PAS, whereas for the Parliament of Pulai, the candidate is from Bersatu, and we do not see that much fervor coming from the perikatan machinery in Parliament Pulai. So with that regard, maybe the intensity that they do show in Dun Simpang Jeram means that they are still working towards getting a win in Dun Simpang Jeram.
According to Nur Azmi, the Chinese electorate is poised to wield significant influence in the Pulai and Simpang Jeram by-elections, which makes up over 40% of the eligible voters in both constituencies.
There are similarities between Dun Simpang Jeram and Parliament Pulai, whereby the two basically Parliament and Dun seats have a very high percentage of Chinese voters, more than 45%. So with regard to that, Chinese votes do play a critical factor in determining who will win for the next election. And again, Pulai, even though it's Parliament Pulai, in actuality is actually part of Johor Bahru, and it's very close to Singapore, whereby a lot of the Chinese voters are working. And I applaud the effort by the government currently. They mentioned that they're going to open an increase of 30% at the CIQ to allow for the voters from Singapore to come back to vote on this Saturday, on the 9th of September.
He believes that most voters have already made up their minds about who to support. However, he stressed that turnout would be the ultimate determinant.
We do see some of the parties are actually doing what we call the phone banking. And some of the result that we do see that have been shared by the parties is quite interesting, in the sense that there are less than 10% of the respondents who have actually still undeciding whether they want to vote which party. Basically, almost 80 to 90% of the voters that responded have actually mentioned that they have decided on which party to vote. So in the sense that that indicates the people have already decided. However, again, that does not mean that the party that they choose will win, because again, it all depends on the voter turnout. So if the voter turnout is high, then I guess the result that we do see in the phone banking will be reflected in the actual result.
A total of 222 private housing projects have been successfully restored to the point of either receiving a certificate of completion and compliance or changing to a smooth status. According to Deputy Local Government Development Minister Akmal Nasrullah Muhammad Nasir, the gross development value of these restored projects stands at 20.61 billion ringgit.
Akmal said that by the end of July, the Task Force for Sick and Abandoned Private Housing Projects had detected and monitored a total of 118 delayed projects, 490 sick projects and 114 abandoned projects. Several factors contributing to problematic housing projects have been identified. These include weak management and monitoring of housing development accounts by financial and banking institutions, and weak project management and financial capacity on the part of the developers. Other problems identified included site management involving main contractors and contract disputes between developers and landowners.
We'll take a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Sepuluh juara-juara GV telah pun diumumkan untuk bertanding di pentas All Stars Gegar Vaganza. Namun kini anda berpeluang untuk mengundi 5 lagi peserta dari senarai ini dan beri mereka peluang kedua untuk merebut kejuaraan. Untuk mengundi, sila ke laman web tertera.
Welcome back. At least 2 people have been killed and more than 100 injured in Hong Kong after record rainfall and flooding. Water inundated not only roads but also shopping centres and major railway stations, bringing the city to a standstill. The rain has also caused landslides, blocking some roads. Schools were closed while people were urged to work from the safety of their homes. The Hong Kong Observatory reported an hourly rainfall of 158 millimeters late on Thursday. Now, this is the highest hourly rainfall recorded in almost 140 years. The heavy rain was not confined to Hong Kong alone. Across the border in Shenzhen in southern China, the city reported its heaviest rainfall since records began in 1952. Hundreds of flights were cancelled in the wider Guangdong province, while local authorities warned of flash floods and advised residents in low-lying areas to consider evacuating. Shares in Apple have fallen for a second day in a row after reports that Chinese government workers have been banned from using iPhones. The firm's stock market valuation has fallen by more than 6%, or almost $200 billion in the last 2 days.
China stands as Apple's third largest market, contributing a substantial 18% to its total revenue in the past year. It is also where most of Apple's products are manufactured by its biggest supplier, Foxconn. On Wednesday, the Wall Street Journal revealed that Beijing had issued directives to central government agency officials, instructing them not to bring iPhones into the office or utilize them for work purposes. The following day, Bloomberg News reported that this ban might extend to workers at state-owned companies and government-backed agencies. The reports came ahead of the launch of the iPhone 15, which is scheduled for September 12. As of now, there has been no official statement from the Chinese government in response to these reports.
North Korea has unveiled its first operational tactical nuclear attack submarine in what it says is the beginning of a new chapter for its navy. The vessel, named Hero Kim Kun-ok after a North Korean historical figure, was assigned to the fleet that patrols the waters between the Korean peninsula and Japan.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was reported by state media saying that the vessel would be one of the main underwater offensive means of the country's naval force. But according to the South Korean military, the submarine did not appear ready for normal operations and that the North had attempted to exaggerate its capabilities. Analysts have also noted that it resembled a modified Soviet-era Romeo-class submarine, which North Korea acquired from China in the 1970s and began producing domestically. The aging submarines would add little value to the North's forces as they were relatively noisy, slow, and have limited range. Its design with 10 launch tube hatches showed it was likely armed with ballistic and cruise missiles.
Today marks the first anniversary of the death of Queen Elizabeth II and the accession of King Charles to the throne. In a heartfelt tribute, King Charles honors his late mother's service and dedication to the United Kingdom through a recorded message accompanied by a favorite photograph of his mother.
In marking the first anniversary of Her late Majesty's death and my accession, we recall with great affection her long life, devoted service, and all she meant to so many of us. I am deeply grateful too for the love and support that has been shown to my wife and myself during this year as we do our utmost to be of service to you all.
Queen Elizabeth died aged 96 at her Balmoral Castle home in Scotland after a 70-year reign. King Charles has articulated his vision for a streamlined monarchy, cost-cutting measures and reforming a system of patronage. However, in the past year, there have been no obvious overhauls of Buckingham Palace.
That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching and good night.